Same week, the Senate has invited public participation and views from members of the public with regard to that constitutional amendment bill that's before the Senate, that among other things proposes the extension of term limits from 5 to 7 years. With what we've seen with the coming together of ODM and Kenya Kwanza, and for the first time, achievement of a supermajority, 286 members voting one way, this could just as well be a reality that for the first time we'll be able to amend the Constitution 2010, probably through a parliamentary motion. Do you see a risk that going forward with the ODM and Raila Odinga looking for a bigger stake within government, that working relationship could have other bigger consequences in as far as our Constitution is concerned going forward?
Well, Fred, there are many ways of skinning a cat, as they say. One way is you can begin to feel like the president has not really had the time to finish his promises or whatever to do his work. The time remaining is too short. There are many ways of extending that term, okay? But this is one way of doing it. The constitutional amendment that Honorable Cherargei moved, and because the law in Parliament can be initiated by either houses and eventually end up in either house. And for the first time I thought, one time I thought maybe this thing will disappear. Mm-hmm. Because, we thought it would never make sense at all. But the fact that it's going stronger and stronger to the place where now even public participation is anticipated means that this thing has the blessing from very high places. Because it could not have continued like that if for example, it was not supposed to happen. That notwithstanding, here is a problem that Kenyans are now being treated to constitutional amendments, and yet it's also time for us to relook at the entire Constitution. Mm-hmm. The 10 years have elapsed, and now it's time for us actually to look at the 2010 Constitution and look at it comprehensively instead of doing it in bits. So we have the opportunity to do it. So trying to do it through parliamentary amendments, it's good, but why don't we as Kenyans bite the bullet and say, now we have seen, after 10 years, we have seen exactly where we need to change in this Constitution, including if we wanted to do an extension of terms, we can still do it together. We may want to do, for example, what America does, which is a staggering of elections, so that it's not all done at once. We can decide to say, okay, this house can run for this, the presidency can run for this, but let's do it, in my view, because if you start by improving just a small part of it, it becomes difficult to come back again and ask people, let's look at this other one. That notwithstanding, we have never, in our time as a nation, felt that 5 years was too short. Mm-hmm. We've gone through that. If you get your 5 years and then you get another term, it's sufficient for you to say, I have served the country. Extending to 7 years, that means now the 2 terms become 14 years. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that from a neighboring country. We saw it from our neighboring countries, by the way. And eventually, term limits will be removed. Because once you start extending your term limits like that, and using the Houses of Parliament, and using the supermajority, it's very possible now. It happened in Uganda, as you know. It went from the 5 years, went to say, okay, let's extend it to 7 years, to eventually saying, hey, okay, we have done this. Mm-hmm. Let's just get rid of it. Get rid of the term. In Rwanda, it used to be 5 years. And then it came to the place where it became 7 years. And 7 years. And you see, if somebody has already done one term, remember, and you change to a different system, that person says, then I'm starting afresh. Yes. And all these things are going to be very inconveniencing for Kenyans. But again, these things have been thought out very well for a long time. We're just beginning to practice things which have been thought out. If Kenyans don't begin to realize that, mm-hmm, and that maybe the best way is for us to have a comprehensive look, mm-hmm, at our Constitution, we will then begin to, because there's a supermajority in the House now, mm-hmm, anything can go. So let's hope that Kenyans will stand and say no to some of these things.
The president made a very curious statement the other day, I think 5 days ago. He made a promise that in 15 years' time, he will have eradicated slums.